I went behind the scenes at this year's Secret Ad Awards at the Meta Agency Summit, and I'm gonna show you my favorite campaigns and what you can learn from the winners. So this isn't exactly a Secret Ad Awards, but this is something new that Meta is doing in collaboration with other industry leaders and Adweek, who helped judge this event. I'm guessing many of you didn't actually hear about this, so I wanna take a peek at some of the great work that agencies have done recently, so let's jam on this content. So what are the Meta Agency Awards? These awards highlight the best work in 8 unique categories for things like best performance campaigns of the year, Reels campaigns, and the best use of AI. And this year it was in New York City at the Meta Agency Summit, which is a yearly conference that brings together the top agencies spending on Meta today. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this video is that oftentimes we don't get to see the behind the scenes of what type of campaigns actually performed on Meta, and we don't actually get to hear from the advertisers who worked on them. So we're gonna be diving into a handful of these campaigns, talk to the advertisers behind them, and break down exactly how you can apply it to both brands big and small. And first up is the performance campaign of the year. This campaign was done by the agency Milked Media. Now, I think a lot of my viewers could actually fit into this category, which is why I wanted to start here. And secondly, the results on this campaign are actually insane. I mean, take a look at this motion report. When I saw these ROAS numbers, candidly, I was a little sus. But more on that in a second. I actually want to talk a little bit about the context behind this campaign because I think it's really important to why it was so successful. So this campaign was a collaboration between Heretic Perfume and the actual film Nosferatu, which was produced by Focus Features. And some interesting things to note about this film is that it was actually a remake of a wildly popular film from the 1920s that is actually credited with starting the horror genre as we know it today. And in both films, Nosferatu is a vampire, but also this personification of death. And the type of audience that loves these films, which is really important to the sales behind this overall campaign, are going to be film buffs, people who love horror films, and candidly, people who are a little gothy. So this ad campaign, right? These numbers are really incredible. And I think that there's a few things at play here. Number one, this is a booming category. It has never been a better time to have a perfume brand. It is currently the #1 sector in the beauty industry because people really are buying a lot of perfume. And what I think this overall campaign, when just looking at the ad creative, did really well is they had the right amount of creative diversity, right? They weren't just riding on 2 to 3 assets and maybe 1 video. They had their creator content. They had their shorter clips that were borrowed from the film. And they also had really bang on messaging that were, again, gonna attract that core persona we were talking about earlier. The top performing ad, perhaps unsurprisingly, is that piece of creator content, and I think that they just matched their persona perfectly with this individual. I candidly do not think I could have done it better myself. And again, I'm not gonna lie, I was really shocked by the performance of this campaign. I even double checked their reporting to see, okay, is this just a big retargeting audience? Is this just based on their leads? And from what I could tell, a number of this was actually targeting a cold prospecting audience according to Meta. Now, what I think they did well is that the content at every single touch point was really a part of this cohesive brand universe. I'm gonna be frank, this is not something that performance people tend to talk a lot about, but because this is a film with a lot more top of funnel awareness and reach, especially in the PR push behind this film that really served as that top of funnel awareness generator, I think it's important to note here, right? If someone was potentially interested in this film and then they got served an ad, they would be able to tell pretty much on site, oh, these 2 things are connected. So I think this campaign did a really good job of saying, hey, if you are this type of person, if you like this type of movie and you are interested in a perfume that is out of the norm and that has a great story behind it, this product is probably going to be for you and is also going to serve as a bit of a collector's item. I'm actually kind of surprised I didn't see much of that language throughout the campaign assets because I think that that is something that was working really well here. They were really leaning into that fandom. Okay, and number 2, my personal favorite, is the Monks and Headspace collaboration for the best use of AI. So a really fun thing to note here, I actually spoke to the Monks team, and something that I found fascinating was that they actually used AI in some capacity at every single point in the creative production process. So it helped inform their research. It helped facilitate their briefing and their pre-production strategy, their production strategy, even in post-production, and the analysis of these assets. Another interesting thing here is that Monk actually made 460 campaign assets for this one single campaign, which actually spread across 20 different unique use cases. The part that's truly wild is that the production of all these assets actually took 1/3 the amount of time that a normal production cycle would have took for the agency and the brand. And Headspace was super happy with the production of this campaign and the results. They had a 62% increase in conversion rate and ultimately 13% more signups. Now, I actually reached back out to Monk a few weeks after I met up with them because when I was looking over this again, this question kept on popping up for me. And I was like, okay, was the result of the campaign just better because they made more assets? Like, is that what is potentially going on here? And I thought their email response to me was really interesting. So let me break it down for you. From their perspective, they think the campaign success was driven by a combination of, one, the personalized options for the creative that hit on a wide range of relatable use cases, and B, Meta's algorithmic targeting, which allowed Meta to find the right high intent audience for each asset. AKA, this campaign probably wouldn't have worked if Meta hadn't had their Andromeda algorithm update, which we've seen a lot of videos on recently. Let me know if you want my take. But Monk's perspective is this: even if they did have a ton of creative before this algorithmic update, it probably wouldn't have been as successful. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And number 3, the best creator campaign by the agency Dentsu in collaboration with Chili's. Now, a big flag for my audience specifically, this is not a performance campaign. It's actually used what big brand teams call a meta moment maker, which I actually thought this type of offering was really, really unique and interesting. And I personally have not worked on one. But this is the type of campaign that brands can use for a massive amount of reach in a short amount of time. Kind of think of it something like when you see an advertiser has a blitz around a big football game or an award show and they know that a ton of people are going to be watching. According to Meta, these Meta Moment Maker campaigns are designed to deliver high impact, short burst media activations that maximize reach, share of voice, and brand outcomes during key moments. It drives audience saturation, feed, stories, reels, and in-stream video in a 3-day flight. So if you've ever noticed that a brand just keeps on showing up for you like a ton on a weekend or during the week for a few days, and it's literally like every time you open up your phone to Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp, you're probably being targeted as a result of one of these campaigns. And the idea for this campaign with Chili's, right, was to promote their 3 for $10.99 deal, which I do not need to state lightly. This is an amazing offer to put behind a massive reach campaign like this. So essentially they were able to use this great creator content with partnership ads underneath this Meta Moment Maker umbrella. And as a result, we're able to reach 46 million people, which is insane. Someone on the Chili's team actually said that guests just couldn't miss Chili's during this time, which I think was the whole point of the campaign. Next up, Reels Campaign of the Year by the agency Thrive. Now, I used to be a huge Build-A-Bear fan as a kid, so I really loved seeing this win Best Reels Campaign. Now, the problem that Build-A-Bear was actually having before they did this campaign is they actually found this new digital first advertising world. They were having trouble actually drive in-foot traffic to their retail stores. So their goal essentially was to increase that. They wanted to target people strategically on social media that would then actually convince them to go in person to a Build-A-Bear location with their kids. And the results here are pretty incredible, right? They had a 14-to-1 return on retail investment measured through a geo holdout study. So essentially the way that they were able to measure this, right? They were able to just show the content in certain markets and actually measure the lift between the markets that saw the content and those that didn't. And the actual creative they developed was entirely UGC that they sourced through CPO. And they used it to essentially develop compilations. Now let's look at this campaign from a 100-foot view at first. They have one creative for online shopping, one for birthdays, one for a rainy day activity, one as a personal experience of choosing a bear, one for Valentine's Day, and one for spring break activity. So top of the line here, it is so important to show those different, unique use cases. I think this is also a learning we had from the Monks campaign and why that personalization is so important. I think if we just would have had one of these concepts and just used a whole bunch of different creators, it would have pigeonholed them into just one story concept. This actually showed parents how versatile this unique experience is. And I will say on the production side of things, like this is pretty lo-fi. It really gave me the sense of real parents just like taking out their phone and recording their children as they are going through this experience. It didn't feel like it was done by a huge creator, which again was really intentional on their team's part. And I think this is a great question to ask yourself, which is how do your customers create and share digital moments? It probably looks pretty different from the way that creators and influencers do. And it's a great strategic test to try that. So my take on this overall award show is that honestly, it was a really cool way to see what type of work other advertisers were doing. And again, the results of those work. It is often so shrouded behind teams and gate capped. And I think it was just really cool that we were able to actually put some numbers to activations that we might have experienced ourselves. You can also take a look at the link in the description below at the 4 other winners, which include Crowd and Nespresso for the best use of brand measurement, Ovitive and Polaris for the best use of data and signals, Tenuity and DSW for the best performance campaign of the year, and W Promote and Purina for the full funnel campaign of the year. If you liked getting a behind the scenes look at these campaigns and jamming on some of the ad content with me, and of course seeing those results, let me know. I'd love to make more of this content for you. And I'll see you next week. Bye guys.